They say the success rate for quitting a gambling addiction is less than 0.1%, lower than the survival rate for many cancers. If that statistic is true, then I, Eric, am probably that 1 in a million survivor who crawled out of the pile of bones. From losing $2 million to having a home again, I'm sharing this without reservation, not to show off my luck, but to tell every soul still struggling in the darkness. Beneath the abyss, there is still a glimmer of light. At the end of despair, rebirth is still possible. My gambling career didn't start in some shady underground casino, but in the polished world of finance. I was a moderately successful trader with an extraordinary confidence in numbers and probability. I first got into sports betting, which in the US is packaged as a skill-based investment rooted in data analysis and expertise. I looked down on the tourists playing slot machines in Las Vegas. I thought they were just donating, whereas I was using my intellect and deep understanding of the games to beat the market. At first, everything perfectly validated my confidence. I knew the stats for NBA and NFL teams, player conditions, and even coaches' tactical styles like the back of my hand. In the first month, I turned a $5,000 stake into nearly $2,000 in profit. The thrill of monetizing my knowledge was far more stimulating than staring at boring candlestick charts during my trading day. I started to believe I had found a code to wealth that was more efficient and exciting than the stock market. My life began to be carved up by the sports schedule. During the day, I studied European soccer leagues. At night, I analyzed North American basketball and football. My phone was filled with sports news apps and odds analysis tools from betting companies. My WhatsApp groups were no longer for casual chats with friends, but for intense discussions about spreads, odds, and insider tips with so-called fellow enthusiasts. I started investing more capital, going from a few $100s per game to thousands. My account balance rode a roller coaster, soaring one moment and plummeting the next. The most insidious trap of gambling is how it uses early victories to numb you and destroy your sense of risk. When you win, you think it's because you called it right. When you lose, you blame it on bad luck or an unexpected poor performance by a player. You never consider that your own judgment was flawed. And so, winning back what I lost became my only thought. That thought is a one-way ticket to hell. The first time I felt real fear was on a Sunday night. There were several key NFL games, which I saw as a golden opportunity to win it all back. I took the remaining $50,000 in my account, plus another $20,000 I had just taken as a cash advance from a credit card, and bet it all on a parlay I had carefully considered. If all 7 games went my way, I would not only recoup all my previous losses, but also make a huge profit. As the games began, the first 6 results went exactly as I predicted. My heart pounded with every touchdown, dopamine flooded my brain, and the feeling of being in control, on the verge of a massive victory, made me feel like the king of the world. Until the final game. The favored team I bet on was defeated by an unbelievable buzzer-beating three-pointer in the last 2 minutes. The moment the final whistle blew, my world fell apart with it. $70,000 gone in a matter of seconds. I sat stunned in front of the screen, feeling as if all the blood had been drained from my body. There was a dead silence around me, punctuated only by the frantic hammering of my heart against my ribs. In that moment, I was no longer a confident investor. I had become a desperate, red-eyed gambler. From that day on, reason completely abandoned me. The obsession with winning it back was a demon that possessed my entire mind. I started engaging in riskier forms of gambling. Online poker, Baccarat, even those digital lotteries that draw every few minutes. I sold my car, lied to my parents that I needed funds for an investment, and borrowed money from every friend I could. My lies grew bigger and bigger, one lie requiring 10 more to cover it up. I lived in a double life. To my family and friends, I was still a successful young professional. But in the dead of night, I was a ghost drifting between various betting sites, my eyes bloodshot, my nerves stretched to the breaking point. I once did something that seems incredibly foolish to me now. I simulated a full year's worth of betting data. I ran a backtest using a program. If I consistently placed flat bets, I was guaranteed to lose in the long run, because the house has the unbeatable weapon of the house edge. If I used the martingale strategy, doubling my bet after a loss, it seemed theoretically impossible to lose. But the reality is that your finite capital stands no chance against the casino's infinite bankroll and betting limits. Streaks of 10 or more overs or unders are commonplace in a casino. In the face of Murphy's Law, any doubling strategy ultimately leads to one outcome: getting wiped out. I understood all these principles when I was sober. But once you're at the table, all logic and calculation are swallowed by emotion. The unwillingness to accept a loss, the anger, the regret, the ecstasy of winning, the greed, the hope, the violent swings of these emotions are themselves a potent spiritual opiate. We are not machines. We cannot maintain absolute calm in the face of huge potential gains and losses. So you're never betting on luck or skill. but on human nature itself. The irony is, only when you let go of the greed to win can you possibly make a rational judgment. But when a person truly has no greed in their heart, they wouldn't touch gambling in the first place. It's an unsolvable, vicious cycle. Ultimately, after exhausting all my savings, the trust of my friends, and countless credit card limits, I lost nearly $2 million. It's a number that would crush any ordinary family. I hid in my small rented apartment, afraid to answer any calls or look at any emails, surviving on the cheapest instant noodles. I looked out the window at the towering skyscrapers and bustling traffic, feeling completely disconnected from the world. I had personally burned my life to ashes. One night, I walked alone to a bridge spanning the sea on the edge of the city. The cold sea breeze cut right through me. Staring down at the bottomless black water below, I had only one thought: jump, and it will all be over. The pain, the debt, the shame, the guilt, all of it would vanish along with me. Just as I had swung half my body over the railing, ready to leap, my phone rang. It was my mother. She probably couldn't reach me, and was frantic with worry. The moment I answered, I didn't speak. I just broke down and cried like a lost child. My mother didn't scold me once. In a trembling voice, she just kept repeating, "Son, come home. Whatever happened, just come home." That phone call pulled me back from the brink of death. I realized that if I died, I would leave my parents with eternal pain and a mountain of debt they could never repay. My death would be an act of supreme selfish escapism. In that instant, the instinct to survive and the responsibility of being a son triumphed over the despair that made me want to die. I decided to live, even if it meant living as humbly as a cockroach. I had to take responsibility for my mistakes. The first and most difficult step in quitting gambling is complete honesty and acceptance of reality. I went home and confessed everything to my parents and my wife. I still remember that afternoon. The air in the living room felt frozen solid. I knelt on the floor, recounting how I had devolved from a confident young man into a reviled gambler. I saw a level of disappointment in my father's eyes I had never seen before, my mother's silent tears, and the entire spectrum of my wife's emotions, from shock and anger to utter heartbreak. It was a torment more painful than losing $2 million. But after I told the whole truth, the enormous weight on my heart actually began to lift. Confession is the first cut that severs the chain of lies connecting you to gambling. As long as you are still hiding it from your family, you are secretly leaving yourself an escape route to relapse. You must destroy this route yourself, leaving no way back. Next came building a firewall system to completely isolate myself from gambling. This required iron-fisted measures. 1. Physical exclusion. I immediately applied for the self-exclusion lists in every state with casinos. This means if I enter any physical casino in those states, I will be immediately removed and could even face legal charges. 2. Online blocking. I installed gambling site blockers like Gambin and BetBlocker on all my electronic devices. Once installed, these programs cannot be uninstalled during the subscription period and can block the vast majority of betting websites and apps worldwide. 3. Financial insulation. This was the most critical step. I handed over all my bank cards and credit cards to my wife's care, canceled all my online payment accounts, and kept only one debit card with a very low limit for basic daily transportation and lunch. I gave her my salary card directly, letting her manage all family finances. I left myself no possibility of accessing funds, not even $100. I knew that for a gambler, any amount of freely accessible money could become the kindling for a relapse. 4. Social isolation. I left all gambling-related WhatsApp groups and blocked all my former gambling buddies. I changed my phone number, giving it only to my closest family. I needed a completely clean environment to reshape my life. Then, it was time to face the seemingly insurmountable mountain of debt. I spent a full day listing out every single debt I had, down to the last cent credit card debt, personal bank loans, loans from relatives and friends. The total was staggering. But looking at that list, I felt less panicked. A clearly defined enemy is much easier to deal with than a vague, unknown fear. My debt management strategy was as follows. Prioritization. The first things to handle were the credit cards and bank loans that carried legal risks. I proactively contacted each bank's customer service department, honestly explained my predicament, and applied for debt restructuring or a hardship program. Banks usually don't want you to go bankrupt. They'd rather work with you to create a repayment plan you can afford. While this severely damaged my credit score, it at least avoided the risk of being sued. Debts to family and friends. For the money I owed loved ones, I called or met with each one to apologize. I promised that although I had nothing now, I would spend the rest of my life paying it back. I didn't give a specific repayment schedule because I didn't want to make any more empty promises I couldn't keep. All I could offer was a sincere commitment to be proven by my future actions. High-interest/gray area loans. As for the ridiculously high-interest online payday loans, after consulting with legal aid, I took a tougher stance. Some of these loan contracts were not compliant with state laws, and I reported them directly to the regulatory agencies. For the endless collection calls and emails, I simply chose to ignore and block them. Yes, I still have texts from collection agencies in my phone, reminding me of the tens of thousands of dollars I still owe. So what? They threatened to harass my friends and family? My hometown already knew all about my scandal. So what? Compared to the despair I felt standing on that bridge wanting to die, this bit of harassment and gossip is nothing. Is a man who's no longer afraid of death going to be afraid of what others think? With the past settled, it was time to create a future. For a gambler to be reborn, the most fundamental thing is to reconnect with society and find a sense of self-worth. And all of that begins with a simple, ordinary job. I used to be a trader earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, accustomed to the rapid flow of capital and huge numbers. After quitting gambling, the first job I could find was as a stocker at a warehouse store, making $15 an hour, which came to about $3,000 a month after taxes. When I received my first paycheck, I was filled with a huge sense of loss and shame. $3,000, it wasn't even a fraction of one of my old bets. I even thought that with this kind of money, I'd never be able to pay off the $2 million debt in my lifetime. This mentality is the distorted view of money syndrome that all recovering gamblers face. Our brains have become accustomed to the immense stimulation and the illusion of quick returns from gambling, making it impossible to adapt to the slow, linear wealth accumulation of a normal job. During that time, I was tormented by self-doubt every day. Several times, I wanted to quit, and the demonic thought of, maybe I should just go for one big win, even flashed through my mind. But whenever that happened, I would force myself to do two things. First, recall the coldness and despair of standing on that bridge. Second, look at my paycheck. Even though it was only $3,000, it was clean, honest money I had earned with my own sweat. I survived the first 6 months, the hardest part. During that half year, my debt barely decreased, but I found that my mindset had changed. A regular daily routine normalized my body clock. Simple interactions with colleagues allowed me to feel human kindness again. Looking at the mountains of goods in the warehouse, I felt a simple sense of accomplishment that comes from labor. I was no longer thinking about numbers and odds all day. I started caring about whether I had finished today's work and what the weather would be like tomorrow. Work, like a good medicine, slowly healed my heart that had been hollowed out by gambling. I made the phrase, "I would even haul cement on a construction site for 20 years, my motto. I told myself that money depreciates. Today's $2 million might be equivalent to only a few $100,000 in 20 years. As long as I was alive, as long as I was willing to work, there would be a day when it was all paid off. This sense of responsibility for my mistakes had already made me infinitely stronger than the man who only knew how to run away. In addition to my main job, I began to use all my spare time to develop side hustles. My former financial knowledge came in handy. I started sharing some basic market analysis and financial literacy knowledge on free blogs and forums, without involving any speculation. Gradually, I built up a readership, and some people started paying me for financial planning consultations. I also took on odd jobs on weekends, like helping people move or mowing lawns. I was like a sponge, frantically soaking up any opportunity to increase my income. My life became incredibly busy and exhausting, but I felt an unprecedented sense of peace. Because I knew that every step I took was a step upward, not a slide downward. My income began to grow, slowly but steadily. In the first year after quitting, I earned a total of about $50,000. In the second year, I got a better job, and with my side income, my annual earnings approached $80,000. In the third year, thanks to excellent work performance and a growing client base, my annual income exceeded $120,000. By last year, I had not only paid off all my debts to family and friends and most of my bank loans, but my wife and I also used the money we saved together to make a down payment on a small house in the suburbs. The moment I got the keys to our new home, I, a man in my 30s, stood in the empty room and cried like a child. This house is far less luxurious than the apartments I used to live in, but I earned it back, drop by drop, with my own two hands, with my sweat, with my dignity. It is a medal of my rebirth. I want to share the core principles I've learned over these 3 years, hoping they can be a fire starter to light your way out of the darkness. First, completely forget the thrill of winning, and carve the despair of losing everything into your very bones. The biggest trigger for a relapse is the romanticization of the memory of winning. You will forget the 99 painful losses, and remember only the ecstasy of that one win. You must fight this memory bias. To this day, I still keep a photo in my wallet of a maxed-out credit card statement from when I lost everything. Whenever I feel myself wavering, I take it out and look at it. The feeling of suffocation instantly pulls me back to reality. Winning is a mirage. Losing everything is your only real destination. Second, rebuild your mental dopamine system. Gambling hijacks your brain because it provides cheap, intense dopamine hits. After you quit, you will feel empty, bored, and uninterested in everything. You must actively find healthy activities to replace that high. For me, it's fitness. The pleasure from endorphins released when I'm exhausted and drenched in sweat at the gym is a real and beneficial high. It can be running, painting, playing the guitar, or building models. Anything that allows you to be fully engaged and gain a sense of accomplishment. You need a new spiritual anchor to fill the huge void left by gambling. Third, learn to coexist with your inner demon, not fight it. Quitting gambling is not a battle that can be won in one fell swoop. It is a lifelong practice. The thought of gambling may pop up without warning on some late night, at a moment of immense stress in the future. You cannot expect it to disappear completely. What you need to do is learn to recognize it, observe it, and then calmly let it pass, rather than fighting it fiercely. It's like the weather. You can't stop the rain, but you can choose to stay indoors or open an umbrella. When the inner demon comes, take a deep breath and tell yourself, "Oh, that thought is here again. I know what it is. It's just a false signal, and I will not be controlled by it." Then immediately do something to distract yourself, like calling a family member or going for a walk. Fourth, redefine success and life. The reason many of us fall into gambling is that we have an overly narrow definition of success, believing that having a lot of money is success. You must destroy this value system. True success is having a healthy body, a harmonious family, inner peace, and a dignified job that allows you to support yourself. When you no longer measure your self-worth by money, the allure of gambling will be greatly diminished. Life is fleeting. We come into this world with nothing, and we will leave with nothing. Wealth and fame are external things. The only things that truly belong to us are our experiences, our emotions, and our character as a human being. Making a mistake isn't terrible. What's terrible is to keep making it, to lose the courage to change. Money once lost can be earned back bit by bit over the rest of our lives, as long as we are still here. But if we lose our humanity, our sense of responsibility, and our capacity to love, then we have truly failed at being human. My life was once a painful, high-stakes gamble worth $2 million, and I lost spectacularly. But now, in 3 years, I have won my life back. I am no longer the profligate gambler at the table. I am a husband, a son, and an ordinary man who works hard. My life may no longer have the thrilling highs and lows, but it is filled with the warmth of daily life and the stability of having my feet on the ground. This is more important than any win or loss at any gambling table. I hope my story can give you a bit of strength. Please remember, no matter how desperate your situation is right now, as long as you choose to turn around, there is always a way forward.